Okay, first thing we're going to focus on is the transfer news. There's lots of it going on right now in January. The window's obviously open. And the biggest report out there at the moment is Dusan Vlahovic to Arsenal. He's been linked with a lot of Premier League teams, but that seems to be the main report doing the rounds at the moment. So I want to focus on that first. And then second of the order of the day, I'd say, is which Premier League club needs a new striker the most? Because a lot of teams, I feel like, are in the hunt either in January or the summer for a new main man up top. And those type of talismanic players who score 20 plus goals a season, they are not easy to find. So I feel like they're all going to be scrapping for the same couple of players. But Nick, on Vlahovic, I mean, the report says $75 million, around about that is the transfer fee. What do we make of this? Because he's 21 years old. He kind of fits into the Arsenal mold of their recruitment. He's young, very big number 9, almost old-fashioned, right? So I feel like this would fit them pretty well if they can get it done. But what do you think about this move?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of more adjustments from Serie A star to the Premier League at a young age, and there are some for sure. And I think Arsenal needs a guy there. I do think Lacazette is underrated, but you need more than that. This might be the year that they could get away with waiting if they want to kind of stall a little bit. I know they're in a top 4 push, but they don't have European obligations. And so I think Arsenal might be in a little bit more of a position of strength than we usually see in January here. They can wait. And I think there are going to be a number of big names on the market come the summer. So, if you look over in Serie A and you think there is a reason to want to gobble up 75 million bucks in January. And I think there is, and I think we're seeing that more often. Teams are looking at big clauses, or big fees as a way to fuel their budget moving forward. And I could see it working.
Me too. And the thing about Vlahovic, he scored 37 goals in his last 56 games in Serie A over the last 2 seasons. So he's in great form, still 21 years old. His contract does expire in the summer of 2023 at Fiorentina. So 18 months left. This is kind of the last chance saloon for them to get big money like this for him. So, Andy, from that point of view, this would almost be the smart time for Fiorentina to sell him. And then, as Nick said, maximize that potential and buy another 2 or 3 players that they can use well and obviously improve and then sell on hopefully in the future for them because they're doing really well this season in Serie A, mostly down to his goals. So what do you think about that? Because I know Tottenham have been in the mix for him as well. What other Premier League teams do you think could be in the hunt for him, or do you think it's all about Arsenal for Vlahovic and that would be a really good fit?
Yeah, it does seem like something is going to happen this month, just given the timeline that you laid out there, Joe. And I think that's one important thing that people overlook often is what is the motivation of a selling club, a buying club, and the player given the current contract situation. And that when a transfer maybe doesn't seem to make sense on the field or on paper, that's typically the driver of that. And I think that's going to be the case here. Kind of looking at the table here, Manchester United, I think, would be a really interesting club that could certainly use a center forward, a very recognized and established center forward, someone for the long term. But obviously, bringing in Cristiano Ronaldo at the end of the summer transfer window complicates that just a little bit. And I wonder for about the 500th time this season, just on the PST videos, are they going to regret that because of blank? This is just the latest example of maybe that, having that player there in that position, an issue for a fantastic player that they could bring in and really strengthen the squad for the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years versus Ronaldo, who might not be there past the summer. Arsenal, obviously a pretty good fit. I agree with Nick. Lacazette has been very good, but 1, he's on the wrong side of 30, and 2, he's a little bit more of just kind of a pressing defensive type forward. He'll get on the end of chances and put some away, but he's not going to create a ton. The hold-up play is not quite going to be there the way that it will be with Vlahovic. And so Arsenal does seem like the most logical landing spot. I would be worried, though, because every time they seem to go out and they spend this massive amount of money on an individual singular player in the transfer market, it seems to not quite work out so much. And they spent just about that same amount on Ben White in the summer. And I know he's come good in the last few weeks or so, but it was a rocky start for him. And so January transfers are always really complicated because the team is settled, the team knows the tactics of the manager, and then you throw in midseason halfway through somebody completely new with the expectations and the monetary weight that's on his. There's just a lot of things that are involved in a January transfer. Manchester United probably the best landing spot for him, but I think Arsenal the most likely and logical.
Focusing on Arsenal, though, still, Nick, I mean, they look like they're going to be moving on. Eddie Nketiah and Lacazette are both in the last 6 months of their contract. Obviously, Aubameyang, his future there seems very uncertain after being stripped of the captaincy. It looked like he's going to move on. They're in, obviously, the top 4 hunt now in the Premier League. They haven't finished in the top 4 for a long, long time for Arsenal. So to me, this almost feels like the right time to kind of make a calculated gamble, I think it's fair to say, and say, you know what, these goals, if he comes in and hits the ground running and scores 10, 12 goals in the second half of the season, that could be the difference between us finishing in 4th or 7th place, because it's so tight between Arsenal, Tottenham, West Ham, Manchester United, for those, probably the 4th spot, maybe 3rd or 4th, depending on if Chelsea regain their form in the second half of the season. So for you, do you think it's a gamble worth taking? Because financially, yes, it's a lot of money, $75 million. Let's not make any means about that. But if they do finish in the top 4, then that's a great return for a bit of a gamble, isn't it? Because they're going to have so much more money coming in from the Champions League. So do you think it's a gamble worth taking for Mikel Arteta, and almost Arsenal saying, you've done a decent job to get us in the top 4 hunt, now let's see you over the line with this new striker?
Yeah, and I feel like they have to get over the line to get their standing back in the transfer market. Not their standing back in the world. They can obviously still continue to become a top 4 threat. But right now, this is their only route. This is the route back to the Champions League, and get a finisher to do that. From all accounts, that's what we have with Vlahovic. He is a finisher, more of your... I don't know. You use the right word for this, Joe, because you came up in a better colloquial structure than us when it comes to soccer/football. But your Vardys, your Suarez's, fantastic players, but this is not necessarily a wizard of creation. This is a guy who, when he gets his chance, he's going to take it. And so that's I guess, just to think about the calculated risk part, my only worry is that have they kind of built a team that's ready to play on the ground and manufacture chances, rather than necessarily whipping in long balls and crosses. But Mikel Arteta does. Whatever you want to say about him, I probably at some point argued that he wasn't going to work out. And I probably very much believed it. But now I feel like they owe it to him, especially with all the love that was given to his name when he was Man City's assistant, that I want to see him in the Champions League. I want to see him against good teams all the time. And is he going to restore that quote unquote Arsenal way? This is their way back to the top 4. They have not been there in a while. It does seem imperative that they seize this opportunity.
I totally agree with that. And I haven't watched him at Fiorentina. The way he holds the ball, he's a mobile number 9. He can get on the end of chances, but he can also run the channels and hold the ball up. And I think it would work really well with Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, Odegaard, just the kind of fluid front 4. Lacazette's done really well, as you said. Great defensive work, knits it all together, uses experience. But I feel like this would be almost the missing piece of the jigsaw for Arsenal up top. And again, it would fit in perfectly with their model of buying young players. He's only 21. He's only going to get better. And I think it's a gamble and a risk, if it is, worth taking, given his body of work in Serie A, which is a very defensive league for the most part. It's tough to score goals in Serie A, and he's done it consistently now over a couple of seasons. So, Andy, you want to jump in one final point on Arsenal and Vlahovic?
Yeah, I actually want to throw you guys a little trivia. What year was the last time Arsenal played in the Champions League? Because I think it's been a lot longer than a lot of people realize.
2015?
17. So it's been 5 years since Arsenal have been in the Champions League. 5 seasons in a row failed to qualify for that one. Obviously the financial hit that puts on a club. At what point will Arsenal not have the money for a signing like this if they don't get back into the Champions League, because of the commercial revenue? It's not going to run out for a club like that, but it does separate them, I think, from the very big boys of the Premier League. So this might actually be, the more we're talking about it and the more that Nick kind of sells it for Arsenal, it seems to be the perfect situation, the perfect timing for the club, at least. Obviously, we'll see if it's maybe the best situation for him as an individual.
Absolutely. And I think the key thing to remember is Mikel Arteta said it. He said Arsenal's a very attractive club. The biggest players in the world still want to come here, and they've been able to sign the likes of Lacazette, Aubameyang, Odegaard, Thomas Partey, who had suitors all across Europe from some of the biggest teams in Europe, and they want to go to play for Arsenal, given the history of the club and where they think it can get to. I think this would be a big statement signing if it does happen. It looks like it's going to take a lot maybe for January, and Arteta isn't giving a lot away in his recent press conferences, so let's wait and see, because there's other Premier League teams circling for Vlahovic as well. But it seems like he's going to be the main man we're focusing on throughout January. And if he doesn't move in January, definitely the summer as well. Let's focus now on which Premier League team needs to sign a central striker, because there's a lot of teams out there who need a new forward up there in that central role. I'm thinking Man City, Liverpool. Andy, you mentioned Manchester United. I mean, Nick, who needs a central striker the most out of all those big boys there? Because again, as we said, they're very tough to find. 20 goals a season strikers are in very short supply. And Mbappe, Erling Haaland, there's going to be a lot of them up for grabs in the summer, we think. So it's really, really interesting, isn't it, to see which team almost wins that lottery and sweepstake and pushes themselves from being top 6 hopefuls to maybe title hopefuls. That's how transformational our new number 9 can be, right?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, Haaland is the name. I think Mbappe is absolutely wonderful. Don't get me wrong, but Haaland seems the one who would be most likely to test the Premier League. I don't know why this is, but I think you look at who Mbappe has been around in his career and all the things he's heard about, and the stories of supposedly loving Real Madrid as a kid, but also obviously being around Messi now and Neymar and hearing what it would be like to restore Barcelona to glory. He just seems like someone who's going to test Spain before he goes the other way. Haaland, to me, has always made sense as a sort of following in his footsteps to Man City way. And it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying, because if they had Haaland, almost regardless of who you take off that team, like if you were to tell me they're going to lose anyone, Ruben Diaz, Rodri, De Bruyne, but they're going to get Haaland, I would tell you, oh, so they're going to win everything this year. And that, to me, is scary. So as we look into the summer and you see the money they got for Ferran Torres, forget who needs it, because Man City doesn't need much. But on a relatively speaking, getting a player like this who affirms their history in a sense because of his father's connection, I think that would say a lot for them.
I agree with that. Andy, is there any other team that you think really needs to move for a central striker in the Premier League?
Well, maybe not really needs to do it, and maybe not in January, but I don't think the word Liverpool has come up anywhere in this entire conversation. And I think that's a little bit interesting, given that Firmino has been injured and just, not favored for selection by Klopp for months and months now. I know Diogo Jota has played really well since moving there, but obviously not a natural number 9. Vlahovic would seem to kind of fit the way that they play, I think, pretty well, better than, say, maybe Haaland going to Manchester City. And so whatever the financial situation at Liverpool at the moment, if they've got the cash on hand, I'm sure that they would be interested. Maybe they've got some issues in other parts of the field that they feel they need to address first, because they can get goals from a number of different places. But I do think that would be very interesting. And Nick, you talk about creating a terrifying juggernaut. If both of those two sides, it's kind of the one position that they're not super, super strong at. If both of them could add someone like that, whether in January or in the summer, and then come back next season and we just do all of this over again, it could be even better next time around.
Yeah, and just one other thought to pull the whole conversation together like a nice warm blanket. Where Arsenal is now, Liverpool was not too long ago. And it shows you that when you're a giant of the game and you miss out on Europe for a while, now if anybody went to Liverpool now, the caliber of player that wouldn't surprise us compared to, say, 5 years ago, that Brendan Rodgers era, it shows you the difference between I'm one of the biggest clubs in the world and I'm one of the biggest clubs in my world, and we're good, is huge.
That's a really good point, Nick, to knit that all together. And I think Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, all going to be in a hunt for a talismanic number 9 in the coming transfer window. So let's see how much money they spend, who they go for. But Dusan Vlahovic seems to be the main man on Arsenal's wanted list. And over at Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com, we'll keep you updated with all the latest news on that pursuit and all the transfer news in January, because I feel like it's just bubbling up now. There's some big moves. Aston Villa are making moves. Other big teams around the Premier League are really starting to jostle for position, and this is going to be a lot of fun. So we'll keep you updated over at PST.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series, and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches, and much more.